Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Aga Wilson Show. And today I have the honor to sit here with Parliament member Elsa Widding, Swedish Parliament member, I have to add. I'm very excited to interview you today just because I am very inspired by the work you're doing, and I think you are a true change maker in this world, and I'm very excited to hear your story. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I don't know if it's so exciting, but I'm trying to do my job in the Parliament.
Yeah, I know, but apparently that's not the easiest task in today's world. So I do know that you are currently independent.
Yes.
You used to belong to a party, but you are working independently in the Parliament right now. And I do also know that you do ask all the controversial questions. So
yes, I do.
You are very famous in the Swedish Parliament for asking those controversial questions. But my question to you is, how do you deal with all of that? And, how has your journey been? And, the courage you have to have in order to go against the mainstream.
Well, probably I'm not too familiar with politics. I think that's probably my strength. I'm not brought up in this system at all. I used to work in the industry, and I have a Master of Science, and I used to work in the energy business for many years, 27 years, something like that. I joined Statkraft in middle of 1996, a Norwegian utility, and also worked for Vattenfall for many years in Sweden, and also for Fortum in Finland. And I also worked for the government actually for a couple of years, but as a specialist in energy, so not political. From the political side, I work for the state-owned companies and responsible for a lot of assets. So maybe that's my weakness and my strength, perhaps, moving into politics. So I was asked to join, and by right-wing party, Swedish Democrats, and I had a dialogue with them for some time, and I thought the purpose was that I was quite familiar with the energy business, and I had also done a lot of work and a lot of studies in climate change, and I've written 2 books about that. So I did very deep into the assessment reports together with some experts. So I had a kind of a firm view, and I thought that was really what they needed. And after joining the party, I soon came to realize that unfortunately they were not so interested in my competence, but rather for me to sit in my room and say absolutely nothing, and not really participating in the areas that I was familiar with. And then I went to a conference in Stavanger, and hell broke loose, and I was called Holocaust denial, and I thought that was so ridiculous, and they made up all these stories, and the party didn't really go out to defend or sort of say that this is kind of ridiculous. So then I thought, if we are not more family than that, why should I stay? So everything became just so much easier when I left, because all of a sudden I was allowed to raise any question. And I can write written questions to the ministers, and I can force them to come to debates. I write questions, and they have to answer me in the Parliament within 2 weeks of time. And then we have every Thursday we have 4 ministers to ask questions to, only very short questions though. But all that became so much easier, and no one needs to be involved, and I can say that it would be absolutely impossible for me to raise these questions if I would remain in the party.
And why is that?
Well, it's because, the party that I joined was the second largest party, and a support party, you could say, for the Parliament. So there should be no debates, no obstacles, no hard views between them. They have promised a lot of things, and it's not really opposition nor part of the government, so it's a very difficult situation. But nevertheless, I mean, also the other parties that are supposed to be the Social Democrats and the Environmental Party and the left-wing party, they are not really in opposition either, because they don't dare to say anything about, you know, all the issues that we are just, we are not really allowed to talk about, like the vaccines, for example, and climate change. We have to, or everyone needs to obey to these stupid climate goals and all that doesn't do a thing for the climate, and everyone needs to be supportive of the wind power and so on and so forth. So it's.
But so how is it? I mean, you are there asking questions that maybe, you know, most people don't want to hear or being asked. So how is the climate for you being in the parliament and doing all of this work? Because, you know, my understanding is that you're pretty much alone, you know, and it seems like you're not really supported on a daily basis, and you're basically a little bit of a hassle for them because you are asking questions that, you know, are very controversial.
Well, of course, I mean, first of all, it's a lot of work because I need to do all the work myself, all the analysis and all that. I mean, I don't have any support function, so even having a seminar is really difficult because you need to be 4 people and I'm the only one. Yeah. So it's always, you have to break some few rules, and so that's of course a little bit of a problem. But other than that, I would say that in the beginning, I made some controversial speeches, and I had a lot of support from some of the other people in the parliament, some of my colleagues. They thought, oh, you are so brave, really good that someone's saying this. And I think over time people they have become more and more scared. And I think the last thing was the WHO, you know, the in national health regulations, the update of those in the spring, and the pandemic treaty, and I really tried to create the awareness among my colleagues in the parliament, and in my previous part, or the Swedish Democrat, a lot of people there in the committee there, they were very much aware of this, but were not allowed to speak out nor raise questions to the minister, and they tried to, you know, get some reactions from their party, but no, it was absolutely no. They have just decided we are not going to say anything about this. And then when I made some noise about this, they just decided that they were not allowed to even speak to me. So, yeah. Anyhow.
Well,
and they don't even dare to come and listen to my speeches. So I think it's fairly much like aligned with what Andrew Bridgen in the UK, what he experienced. So it's basically very much the same. But anyhow, I just continue, and as long as I'm in the parliament, I will continue to raise important questions. So now this week on Thursday, I have a debate with the Minister of Defense about Ukraine and what we are doing there. And I think it's very important. No one is raising any questions to this man, so he has no debates to look forward to, so I just hope he enjoys getting the opportunity to answer to my questions. And I think it's also questions that a lot of people in Sweden really want to ask. But how can they even get close to these people or to those decision makers?
Yeah, and that was kind of what I wanted to get into, is that there is a huge gap between like the communication and the dialogue between politicians and the people today, I feel, you know, and not being able to express concerns, and you know, we see the media not being you know, transparent with reporting what's going on. So there's a lot of things, you know, there that I think are really difficult. And for me, especially working with vaccine injuries in the past 3 years, to just get through to the government or get through to media in order for the people, because, you know, there's a lot of people that need help today that are completely lost, and they have their lives completely destroyed.
And it's of course a huge frustration when we know all this, and we get all the new scientific reports, and we become more and more aware, and they just continue saying the same thing: safe and effective, go and take the shots. No, we need detox, we need help to detox, and we need to supply people with a lot of vitamin D and C and zinc and all that. And instead they just go on and on and on, just as if nothing happened. And that, of course, creates a huge frustration. And you don't believe in these people anymore. Something is really weird.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, so what do you think an individual or people can do in order to actually...
Just hope for a new party next time. But then you say, well, there's so many other issues. But, you know, by the end of the day, I always thought that it's really important that we don't waste our money. We don't want too high taxes and all that. But now some of these new issues that have sort of arisen, they're so much more important. So, yeah. So if I was sort of promoting a very stable big party, I'm starting to think a little bit different about this. We do need parties that dare to raise the right questions. And the big problem for Sweden is, of course, that, and like a lot of other European countries, we are now lacking the ability to decide over our own futures.
Exactly.
So that is what my experience was from working in this committee with all the legislation's proposals coming in, and we were allowed to maybe change the sentences a little bit, but what we should do was really just making a big red cross and send it back and say that we don't put up with this, sorry. And I know that a lot of Eastern countries did exactly that, but in Sweden we want to be sort of a really good soldier to obey to everything that is expected from us.
Yeah, because I think we are taught to trust the government, and there's always been a dialogue in the past, and I feel that dialogue is slowly disappearing. Okay, so when it comes to climate change, I know that you've had, you know, a lot of different opinions, and I also know, I mean, to just start, because we're going to get into that, but how did your whole journey start? You know, how did you actually start seeing that something was off, and you started awakening to a different truth than you were taught?
I think it came very naturally. I worked for the utilities as I just mentioned, and well, of course, I mean, we were doing a lot of strange things, and we were talking about all these scenarios, 2015 and all that, and after working for Vattenfall, and was it before I joined Fortum or after? I can't really remember everything, but in 2016 I got sick, and I just quit working for a little while, and I dig very deep into the science of climate. I thought that was very fascinating. I found this book that I'm actually also selling, also in English, False Alarm, The Climate Issue from a Scientific Perspective, which was written by a professor in biochemistry. He spent 6 years of writing this book, and I digged into that, and I built up a very big network with professors from different disciplines within science that the climate change relates to. And so that was really my starting point, and I realized that a lot of things was really dumb, and then I have followed the science, you could say, and all these assessment reports from IPCC, and it's just amazing how if you study assessment report 5 and then you study assessment report 6, 5 was from 2013, and the last one, the final report, from 2023, and everything looks so much better in the last report, and still our climate goals are just getting worse and worse, and we just want to do something. We have to fulfill these climate goals at any cost. We can suffer as much as, I mean, it doesn't matter if our companies will go bankruptcy or anything, as long as we fulfill the climate goals. And that is kind of ridiculous, because when you study this, if you just look at what we said in 2013, the reference scenario was very dramatic, RCP 8.5. The world should emit by the end of the century 1,200 gigaton of carbon dioxide per year. And now we're saying only 10. That's a fantastic story. Only 10 in this middle scenario that is the most likely.
Yeah.
So I'm just amazed how we can continue and make all these alarms out of something. We say we should listen to the science, and we are always referring to IPCC, but not the working group 1, which is the physical science. And it's also a big problem that I think the working group 2, looking at the consequences, they are making their consequences on the report from 2013, where we were believing in, or I don't think serious people were really believing in this RCP 8.5, because it was more made as, you know, test scenarios for the scientists. But the problem is really that we are making the legislation out of these very unlikely scenarios. We're even in Sweden building huge walls for the sea out of these very unlikely scenarios. So no one is really looking into the details, only reading the headlines. That is very dramatic, I think. But how do you do that? You're in the parliament with 348 persons who, I don't know if, I mean, they have hardly any education, most of them, and they are very poor analysts. And they are just saying, they are really good in speaking. I'm not, but I do have some knowledge. And I can find knowledge, and I can do analysis. And I trust what I read, and I trust what I learn. So I think it's a big difference.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in today's world, like we've discussed before, there's a lot of, I mean, media has basically been hijacked. You know, they are only portraying one side of the story, and we have a lot of new channels coming in showing the other side of the story. And like you said, you know, everyone needs to do their own research to really like find the truth out there, because it's really difficult. It's one-sided. And, you know, as we all learned in school, critical thinking, right? Like you need to look at both sides and analyze. And I mean, you and I are used to do that from the UN, and like your job for me from the UN. But you know, so it is very difficult. It's very difficult to get the information out there too. I mean, even me with my show and being independent like that, it's there's a lot of things being censored.
Yeah. But I think I did an analysis in my book in chapter 5, because I divided the debate in climate change in the extremists, the alarmists, and then I defined 3 groups who are all the 3 of them are basically analyzing the different gap, you know, the IPCC material, but those are not the ones that are speaking out in the debate. It's very much what they call the denials, or those that are just saying this climate is, you know, everything IPCC does is bullshit. And then we have the other ones that are just saying that the world is going to burn and we have to stop breathing, more or less. But there's nothing in between, and that is really, really tragic.
So what is the solution?
Because it will harm people. I think knowledge, of course, and we just have to bring on board the big companies, not the globalist companies perhaps, because maybe they are in the driving seats, but there's a lot of companies who are really suffering, I think, with all the sustainability reports and all what they need to do, which is really nonsense. It's just giving a lot of hours to consultancy firms and taking away the energies that could be spent on real stuff, creating value for the companies and the businesses. So I think we have to start there, that if some of the business leaders need to speak out and say, this is really ridiculous, then I think the politicians will understand that, okay, I can raise my hand and say this is not really good. But now today everyone needs to sort of obey to the common view in Sweden. But no one really knows what they believe, what is the common view, although a lot of people think it's really stupid.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's a need for a big reform. There's a need, like we said, we have the power of voting with our wallets, voting what information we take in, voting what we choose actually. And of course, it's hard when things are being censored, but there's also a lot of people like you and others, new media channels, people that are fighting, you know, for freedom and fighting for that transparency, right, and the open dialogue, which has been non-existent, right? I mean, every question you have raised in the parliament was basically very controversial, even though it should just be like a regular open dialogue about, you know, there's one side here we see, this is what, even if it's the side in the media, right? But then there's the other side, and people coming forth saying, no, stop, like there's something not right here, we see other things. And to just dismiss that or tell those people that they're crazy or tinfoil hats, because we know now that a lot of things that these people said before are now coming to surface and they're actually proving to be right.
Yeah, well, they were just protecting themselves. It's so easy. If you don't have any other answer, you can always refer to that you are a conspiracist. And then time goes, and I mean, now we know so much. We have so much information about the vaccines, for example, so it's kind of ridiculous. But they should be ashamed, I think. So we have to have follow-up. I feel now I have a debate with the Minister of Defense on Thursday, and I have debates planned with our environmental and climate ministers in November. And I am planning now also for a follow-up debate with the Minister of Social Affairs, just to follow up on all the lies that he told in the last debate, when he said we should have a debate when we have all the facts or the proposal from WHO. We should have a debate here, but of course we had no debate. They took the decision on the 1st of June and they negotiated until the same day. So we really want to know if he believes this is sort of a democratic process or anything. No, it's not. It's a disaster. And they should feel ashamed.
So how do you see, I mean, you just mentioned that, but we're seeing something is happening to democracy. And what's your thoughts on that? You know, what's happening in the world right now, and what are the solutions?
I mean, unfortunately, we vote every 4 years, and in between, the politicians can do basically what they want, and they are hijacked by EU and by those big organizations. That is our main big problem. So maybe before the next election, people are becoming more and more aware. We have had it, everything has been so smooth, and we've had so many years now with prosperity, everything has been so good for everyone, and you know, freedom and all that. We just trust our authorities and we trust the government. And I think maybe people are now starting to realize, and I hope that the next election can be a wake-up call. Unless you care for the Swedish people and our country, you shouldn't have any votes. So I mean, all those small issues that we are still allowed to discuss, they don't mean so much compared to what we are up against, I think. So time will tell. But maybe it will also be too late, that people wake up too late. I don't know. But I hope that we can have a good discussion. And I really want to meet with more people now. I spend so much time by my computer doing all this analysis work and preparing for things. And I think I should spend more time meeting people, because then you realize that there's a lot of thinking going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's really important to meet with people, because it's so different, and like really engage and see. I mean, that's what politicians should be doing, going around and asking people what are their needs right now.
But I answer, people call me every day. I speak to people every day.
Yeah, so you are like the kind of parliament member that we want to see, and the politician that we want to see in the future, because I feel like there's such a big gap between the politicians and the people today. I don't feel like anyone is representing me and what I would like to see in Sweden.
I'm representing.
Yeah, I know you are. That's why we need to clone you. But no, and I'm really hoping that because, you know, and then it's you, but then you inspire, and then, you know, eventually other people will, you know, speak out. We'll try to make changes, and we'll try to come forth.
Because what we don't want to see is that people give up and think that, okay, I'm only caring for my little carrots here, and the world is going crazy and I can't do anything. We don't want to get there. We really need to feel that we have the strength to make a change. I think that is so important.
Yeah, and also coming together, because I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, and I see that I live in the country, and there's a lot of people, many more than I ever thought, that are aware,
Yeah.
but they just don't talk about it unless you sit together at a table somewhere or something. And I think, so I wasn't even aware that so many people get what's going on, you know, and especially after COVID, because they trusted the government, they took the shots, many of them got damaged, but still they don't talk about it, but still they know. They know, they somehow know that they were tricked. And I think, you know, we are at the verge of some sort of...
And also there's a lot of things to sort of improve the situation, and that is also too bad that the government should really focus on helping people out of the situation and talk about what could be done instead of just, you know, okay, I've done this, I took the shots, and I don't know how damaged or what the consequences will be long term. It's much better to sort of deal with the situation and put pressure on our authorities.
And them taking responsibility.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's like something that hasn't been done at all. It's just like, oh no. And who is going to take responsibility in the end? I mean, we have over 100,000 reported side effects and people suffering, and they don't even know where to go. So you know, I really want to see reform. I want to see change, you know, and I think people are starting to get fed up, because there's so many issues. It's not just that issue, as you know, you are talking about it in the government. So, but there's so many issues, you know, and I don't feel like the people are in charge anymore.
No. No, it's also too bad that all those politicians that said the wrong things, and they probably feel ashamed and they don't dare to say that, okay, we did the wrong thing, we didn't have all the information, now we want to do good. They just continue, and that is really too bad.
Okay, Elsa, so I think we can start rounding up, but I really, you know, am curious to what you see for the future of Sweden, because, you know, we're both living here, and you see all of these issues. You know, what solutions do you see for the future, and what will your role and contribution be to make Sweden a better place?
That's a tough question, but I think, yeah, maybe I should start this opposition party, because we don't really have opposition. I'm the only opposition, and it's kind of boring to be alone. So yeah, so I'm thinking about it seriously. So just to find enough really good people and with expertise within different areas, and we do have a number of issues that needs to be solved. So maybe we could do something, and I will start quite soon to make tours around Sweden, speaking to people, holding lectures and talking about what we are doing in the parliament. I did that before, talking about climate issues for very prominent people also. And I think I will take that up again just to meet people, because it's really fun thing to do, and you get a good understanding that you're not alone. And out of that, I think I could, of course I'm thinking about how could I do this. And I know I have a lot of support. I even got at the last election, I was getting the most personal votes in the whole parliament.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So there
without
is hope.
even being a politician. Yeah, definitely. So we just have to cheer up and get together and have a very good plan and just go for it, I guess.
No, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I see that happening totally, because I think, you know, the people need to take back their country, you know, through representatives that really care about people. I think, you know, we see that even, you know, the US elections coming up now, and you know, maybe one of the most controversial elections there will be, you know, and I think it's very interesting times, you know, but still we need to stir the pot. We need to continue reforming the system. We need to like do something about everything that's been stagnant for such a long time. It's about just like going and doing and bringing in good people, because there are a lot of good people. I think it's sad to see that so many governments got corrupted, you know, on the way somehow. I don't know even how that happened, or like people were sleeping, maybe they had, you know, too much wine and dinners on the weekends and lived a good life and just didn't see it. But I see the difference now, you know, and we're in a very, very serious situation, I would say. You know?
But of course, you have to be very aware also that it's not so easy when you don't have media on your side.
Yes.
So media is really not supposed to, of course, raise questions to the politicians, but they don't really do a good job there. They are just sort of promoting all the views that the politicians bring forward, and those views are not really the Swedish views, but rather coming from somewhere else. So that's a huge problem, of course.
Yeah.
But I think things are getting so bad now quite rapidly, so people are waking up, and there is a small hope, I think.
Absolutely, and I think media also, I see all these new media channels popping up all over the world with alternative media, people that actually care about the planet, people that interview change makers. It's more positive, and eventually people will turn to that media. You know, it's again, like, it's the people that makes the decisions, and I think people are not aware of what power they have, because you vote with your wallet, you decide what you buy, where you buy from. You know, you vote, even if some people say that whether, you know, the elections are rigged or not, but it doesn't matter. Like, we still have the power as people to actually start doing that, watching the right channels and supporting the right people. And I think, you know, knowing that you have these great ideas, I think, you know, that gives hope, and we need people like you out there. So I'm extremely grateful and humbled by all the amazing work you're doing and your courage. You know, it's extraordinary, and you are a change maker in the world, and I truly, you know, admire that.
I think we all need to put a price tag on our freedom, most of all, really. So it's worth quite a lot to remain with the freedom that we are used to, and not have someone else to decide too much.
Exactly.
And also realizing what is happening. I mean, you have to do the analysis, and it's in so many different areas, and so it's really the right time now to raise the red flag.
Yes, I agree. So where can people find you if they want to follow your work and what you're doing in Sweden?
Soon I will have a new homepage. I was closed down from my news desk, and otherwise it's Riksdag Mail. I do have a YouTube channel, but and I'm doing more and more in English, or we are translating a lot of my debates and things like that. But I think my new homepage will be very good. And I will also open a Substack and put a lot of material and analysis that I have already done, put it there.
Yeah, so we'll make sure to add that to the YouTube channel and the video. Thank you so much, Elsa.
Thank you. Bye-bye.